Welcome back to another Alvado video. In today's video, we're going to be watching a game by the player who came out on top at the end of day 3 of the Defender Cup. Now, in order to move on to day 2, you needed at least 28 points. And Nico ended with an impressive 40 points, especially when you consider that he's playing against the best that NA has to offer. This is game number 5 of the day, and at the end of this video, I think you're going to understand exactly why Nico ended up on top, because he demonstrates such a deep understanding of the current meta, and I'm going to do my best to try and help you understand what's going through his mind at every stage of the game. So now that we have that out of the way, let's start focusing on the game. So right off the bat, he goes for tier off of Carousel and gets dropped Chain and Glove. And so you can see him, he's currently scouting everyone in the lobby to try and see what their items are. Now that's important because of this decision right here. He's shown the first Augment, and you can see he's still scouting to see everyone's items in the lobby. And Sure Shot Crest is a very powerful Augment when you're playing around Samira because it helps you fit 4 Sure Shot in, and you don't need to run Senna. But after scouting the items of everyone in the lobby, he sees too many people with gloves and bows and AD items, and he thinks that there's a really high chance that Samira is going to be contested because Samira is one of the strongest comps in the game right now. You get a 2-star Samira, you get a 2-star set, you make it a mech set, and it's like a pretty free top 4. So since he knows that, he doesn't want to limit his options and immediately commit to going Sure Shot Samira. So he keeps his options open and he chooses Celestial Blessing. You can play essentially any comp with Celestial Blessing, so I think right off the bat it's a pretty solid decision. And with that, I want to introduce the idea of free time to you. Now you might be sitting there and using all of your time to understand what your strongest board is. So that means you have no free time because you're spending it all on that. But a player like a Nico, he already knows what his strongest board is, so he has an excess of free time and he can use that to do other things like understand the spot of every other player in the lobby. But Nico actually doesn't have infinite free time right now because he needs to understand what he wants to make with his current items. He has Chain, Tier, and Glove, and he doesn't want to make an item like Protector's Vow because of how valuable the Tier component and the Chain component are. And he doesn't want to make Hodge because it's an underpowered item, and he definitely doesn't want to make Shroud. So he's going to go for, I believe, Sunfire is what he wanted on this carousel. But he doesn't actually get it, so he just goes for the next best thing, a 3-cost Chain. And he was thinking about making Bramble, but he still doesn't know exactly what he wants to do with his spot, so he just chooses to not slam it. Now you might be thinking, okay, he just lost, so doesn't that mean that he wants to continue loss streaking? He doesn't want to push for levels. But in this spot, he just wanted to save some HP, so he ended up and leveled for Yasuo, and that allows him to fit in Laser Core, which is an extremely strong trait. So he's trying to do a play where he saves as much HP as possible, and even if he didn't level there, he could have made 20, but he never would be able to make 30 the next turn because he doesn't have enough gold to get to that next interest threshold. So leveling there actually only loses you 1 gold, maybe compounding into like 2 or 3 gold later on. But since you don't get the immediate like next threshold because you're never making 30, then he doesn't actually like lose out on what could be like 4, 5, or maybe even like 6 gold compounded like later on in the game. But either way, he's definitely not rich. He's still like extremely poor, and he doesn't have a streak. His spot is not looking that good. If you look at his streak right now, win, loss, that is not a good setup for trying to push for a top 4. You really want to get like a 3-win into a 2-loss, or obviously you want to get like a 5-win or a 5-loss. But without getting like a single extended streak and choosing to level on that turn, he really is going to be a lot less gold on the entire lobby. So, but that almost just makes it even that much more impressive for how he ends up turning this game around. So he's currently running the Recon threat board because he wanted to make sure that his board was tailored just in case he got a hero augment at this stage of the game. He was thinking about playing Kaisa, but you can see he scouts the lobby right here. He looks at this guy's spot, Xiao Dian Dian, XDD, and he sees that he is basically just hard forcing Kaisa. So he needs to, consider that when he's making his decision. So he goes ahead and takes scoped weapons. And since he knows that he's not playing Kaisa, you really want to save the tier for Static Shiv and Kaisa comp. But like I said, now that it's being contested and he knows that he's not going to be playing it, he goes ahead and just makes Hodge and slams the sword anyways to continue just saving as much HP as possible so he can figure out what his game plan is going to be later. So now that he is officially not playing Kaisa because he doesn't want to contest, essentially what is on his mind is on 4-1, he's going to level to 7, and he's going to roll all of his gold and just pray that he hits something that he can utilize. You can see he's still level 5. It's extremely common to go level 6 on 3-2 because of the perfect interval that you get, so you can save as much gold as possible while still having a strong board. But since he understood how poor he was because of the previous turn where he leveled, he actually was just okay with just continuing to lose, and he doesn't even go level 6. He goes for bow off carousel. He doesn't have that much backline items. He has 2 solid frontline items, but not only does he get this bow, it also comes along with a Vayne. And the reason why Vayne is so important is because he doesn't want to roll any gold right now because he's saving it all for level 7. But the 4 recon is actually a massive spike to his board because it makes use of the Hodge that he has on this Kaisa. It makes the item a lot more valuable. The reason why it's a lot more valuable is because Hodge is built with a glove, which gives you lots of crit chance, but you're not using any of that crit chance unless your unit's ability can crit in the first place. And what the 4 recon ability lets your units do is exactly that. It lets your unit's abilities crit. So he's able to get a 1 unit loss there, save as much HP as possible, and he's trying to save even more HP, and he ends up getting a 2 unit loss right here. So even though he kind of sacked through the entirety of stage 3, he's not super unhealthy, and he's actually in a decent spot to try and figure out how he's going to play this game. And now it's time to play the game of TFT. You can see he goes ahead and sells some of his units that he knows he's not going to play on his board immediately so that he can fit units that he wants to play. He rolls Slight on level 7, he hits an Urgot, he hits a Zed, it helps him find direction, and now we can see his roll down. He hits 2 Echoes immediately, and he already has this Zoe because he wanted to play around Zed, so now he's holding on to Prankster units. That's what got him to hold on to these Jinxes. And now that he has 2 Jinx paired, or he has 2 Prankster pairs, or he actually has 3 Prankster pairs because he has the Zoe on his board as well. He's trying to figure out exactly how he wants to piece his board together with what he is given. Now we can see the final augment. He snaps click Zed because he has a Z2. He was able to find a Z2 on his roll down. Pretty lucky, but at the same time, it's if you're going to be rolling infinite gold on level 7, you're probably going to hit something, and this time he was able to hit a Zed. He rolls all the way down to 0 here. He's able to find an Echo 2, and now he's completely okay with playing around the 3 Prankster frontline. Now, this frontline is definitely underutilized, but in a spot like this, where it's kind of all you're given, it's actually an extremely solid option, especially when you pair it with a unit like Zed. Zed is an assassin type unit, and if you don't know what Prankster does, 3 Prankster means that as soon as the Pranksters reach 40% health, they dash away, they create a target dummy in their spot, in their place, and then if that target dummy gets killed, then the unit that killed the target dummy gets stunned for I think 1.5 seconds. And so the reason why that's so strong with a unit like Zed is because Zed really benefits from units getting stunned. CC is obviously like very important, but the main issue with Zed is that he's extremely vulnerable. He's one of those units where you really want Edge of Night on Zed, because if there's a backline unit that happens to target your Zed and ends up just killing it really towards the beginning of the fight, then you have like nothing else. So there's a lot of things happening all at once right now, and I'm going to try and cover them all, but first let's talk about why he went for the Janna off of Carousel. His initial thoughts was he's going to go for Chain and he's going to make his final Zed item, he's going to make Edge of Night. But what happens is that he had a Janna pair, and when Mordog hands you a free 2-star Windy Weather Janna, you take it. On top of Zed getting a lot more damage, he also has this Urgot as well, don't forget. And Urgot scales really well with AD, but what Urgot scales AP with is his percentage to get chests. So not only is this Janna making his Zed like a god unit at the end of a game in overtime, but it's also making it so if this Urgot ever gets a cast off, he has a lot higher chance of farming items in gold. But the thing is, the really important thing to notice is that when he's moving this Zed around, he's moving this Janna around, he's moving the Urgot around, he's only putting those units in the hexes. I see so many players, they get a Janna and they go, whoa, shiny 5-cost unit, let me put my entire team in all of the Janna hexes because I don't want to lose out on all the value that this Janna is giving me. But then what happens is that your frontline units are in these hexes and your entire team is clumped, which is like the worst thing you can possibly do in this set because every late game unit punishes clumping. So do not do that. Even though he has a 2-star Janna, you can see he doesn't put any other units in the hexes except for his Urgot and except for his Zed. Now, another thing I kind of glanced over is his second augment. He took his second augment in hopes to just choose like the augment that gave him the most power at the current point in time. But it actually worked out extremely well with this Zed because even though RFC Zed or Zed with extra range, it seems really troll because Zed, you know, when he enters kill mode, he does like a spin around him. And when he does that spin, you know, he's hitting every unit next to him. So you don't really like want Zed with extra range because he loses out on the value from hitting like units next to him. But the thing is that it makes him a lot more safe because he's able to just stay in the backline and pick off units. And when he does enter his kill mode, he always teleports directly behind a target. And what often happens is he teleports to them and then he gets like in a clump of units and he ends up, you know, hitting a lot of units anyways. So Zed with RFC is kind of troll, but it also is like not that troll because he doesn't have Edge of Night and he needs his Zed to be as safe as possible, and this is like the best way that he can make that happen. So not only is he playing Zed outside of duelists, he's playing a frontline that most people don't even consider playing. He's playing carry Zed outside of duelists with a prankster frontline, and he somehow is win streaking. He win streaked all the way through stage 4 and is continuing to win streak in stage 5. He was planning on completing his echo items for this carousel, but since he was last pick, there wasn't really anything good to take, and he just takes Shojin for this Janna, and he's hoping that this Janna can cast twice. So remember at the beginning of the video where he scouted everyone on 2-1, saw their items, and he chose not to go for Sure Shot Crest as his first augment because he knew that there was going to be at least one Sure Shot Samira player contesting him later on in the game. Well, look at exactly what he's fighting right here. He's fighting against a Sure Shot Samira player mech set frontline. When you're able to just understand exactly how a meta works, and it really can help you envision what a lobby's going to end up looking like later on in the game. And it can help you make long-term decisions that, you know, end up being like extremely impactful. So here's a really cool play that he does here. He sees that this guy's clumping on the right side because this guy actually is trying to make use of the entirety of Janna's ability. And you can also see exactly why that's not a good idea, because he just leaves his Urgot on the other side and he doesn't want his Zed jumping into that entire clump. So he actually goes ahead and doesn't greed Janna value on this Urgot so that he can guarantee the Janna value on the Zed while having Zed on the other side of the board. So he's leveling to 9. He's pumping levels. He's going to go 9. Gonna roll down and he's gonna try and get a first. Pops his tome. What does he want here? He doesn't really know. GS on Urgot, sure. Let's see what he hits on level 9. He's just looking for any upgrades. He finds a Fiddlesticks, finds another Urgot. He thinks Urgot is better than a Zac 1. He probably is correct. And because he didn't have any free time in that position, because he was trying to figure out exactly what he wanted to roll down for, he ends up leaving his Zed on the left side of the board and he jumps right into this guy's, you know, backline that he has clumped up because he has these extra target dummies. So the Zed was never getting into the corner there and he gets pretty punished. And now he's just basically trying to get a second here. You can see right at the end of that round, he also quickly moved his Zed to get out, or to position him exactly where he wanted, and he ended up not putting it in the Janna or in the Zeeks. And even though that could have been like a bad decision, like either way, he's either losing Janna value or he's getting a good position for his Zed. Now, he saw how much damage his Urgot did in the previous round, and I don't know if this was the best decision, but he chose to sell this Zed and then itemize this Zed. But the thing is that he has no Last Whisper, and there's no way that any of these Urgots are going to get through this mech set frontline. And Samira is just going to wipe out his frontline before he has a chance of getting to, you know, their backline. He ended up getting second, but honestly, it's impressive that he even got a top 4 from his spot. There's a lot of things that I wasn't able to cover, but hopefully you learned something. My next video is going to be about who wins the Defender Cup. If you like the video, like it, and I'll see you in the next one.